Good morning and welcome to our channel. I have a question for you. Can something like this help you in a natural disaster? And if the answer is no, this cannot, we're going to talk about things that may be able to help you. Let's talk about it. You can prep or prepare for a lot of different things in a lot of different ways. However, the first thing we all need to realize is nobody's coming to our rescue, right? We are our own first responders in any situation. That includes natural disaster or riots or an economic collapse, whatever it may be. Now, for my Christian friends, I'll talk about this a little bit later. We might have a little bit different perspective, but let me go over a few other things first. Even if you're able to own a generator, to own a solar power system for your home, to own some rainwater reclamation tanks. If you were in a situation like what happened in North Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, and so on, all of that stuff could instantly be wiped out. So while I recommend investing in those things, just remember that they are not going to work in every situation. Everything is different. Look, tornadoes are unpredictable. Hurricanes are somewhat predictable, but nobody saw the flooding that would happen from Hurricane Helene coming straight up the middle of the United States. Forest fires are a little bit more predictable, and you can get out of the way in most situations. But if you have to leave your homestead with all your preps there, then hey, they're gone. Earthquakes are not predictable. However, they are much easier to survive if you survive the initial impact and shock on your home. Any preps that you do have, like your water tanks, are probably going to be fine, your generator is going to be fine, your gas storage is going to be fine, your solar system is probably going to be totally okay, unless it's on the roof and unless you maybe have a bad racking system. Those things are going to be good to go and you are going to be able to use them. Floods are going to be the most dangerous, in my opinion. Now, when you're looking for your homestead land, you want to look at the FEMA flood maps. And we all know that FEMA's got serious issues, but the flood maps they've put together for the United States are really good. And I looked at them all the time as an architect to be able to, tell people if the property that they were using or wherever they wanted to put a house was appropriate. So when you're searching for your country property, make sure you are looking at those FEMA flood maps and understanding where that water is going to be and going to go. Sadly, for many in North Carolina, and that was an unprecedented event, yes, but sadly, a lot of those houses that got wiped out and those towns like Chimney Rock that got wiped out were in the middle of those flood zones. I do have to mention winter storms as well, because winter storms and ice storms especially can knock out power like it did here in Texas a few years ago. Now, your home preps are still going to work great. Your wood stove for heating backup, in that case, saved our rear ends. Our solar saved us on the electricity because the power was out for days everywhere. Beyond snow and ice storms, living here in Texas and in Michigan, I have never been in a natural disaster. Although common sense tells us that having a few small items can make a world of difference. And let me talk about those now. I have 3 small items here in my pocket that are invaluable to me. And I have multiple of every one of them, and I have backups for my family members. And that's this right here. Something to start a fire with, a good knife, and a flashlight. These 3 items right here can get you a long way in a survival situation. And they're so compact, you can carry them with you anywhere at any time. Now, I really recommend that you get good quality items because junk flashlights from the dollar store are not going to last very long. Little knives from the dollar store are going to break really easily and not last very long at all. Lighters and matches are the cheapest way to start a fire if you don't know how to build and make a bow drill. But if you have something called flint steel or a ferro rod, that's more weather resistant. So the flint on these will get a little bit wet and it won't work. But your flint steel and your ferro rod are going to work well. For our flashlight, we have one from a company called Olight. It's kind of middle of the road. And then for our knife, we've got a Benchmade Bug Out. This is a good knife. It's not inexpensive, but in the grand scheme of things with knife companies, it's not that bad. And it is tough as nails, and it's gonna last a long, long time. The next thing I want to talk about is warm clothing, because if you didn't know, you can get hypothermia in 50-degree Fahrenheit temperatures, especially if you don't have any shelter, the wind's blowing on you. You are going to have a serious problem if you are not covered up. For many people in Tennessee right now, it is snowing. It's snowing up in those mountains that are still cut off because roads were washed out and there is no power. So what are they doing? They are having to fend for themselves because people cannot get in to help them. I have friends right now who live in North Georgia. They have not had power for 21 days. They are living in their RV. They have a small gas generator that is powering a few loads in their house to keep their freezer going and things like that, but they're living in the RV. They are starting a fire to cook on outside because their RV only has a limited amount of propane. Now, luckily, their property was not destroyed at all in any sense, but that power, they have no idea when it's going to come on again. It's so amazing how dependent we are on electricity. And it's getting cold where they are as well. So having those warm clothes is super important. Let me show you another item that is very, very important to have. And that is a good quality pair of boots or shoes. Something that's really going to last a long time. It's going to be rugged. You can walk long distances in them. They're comfortable and potentially even waterproof like these. Those people in North Carolina stuck up in the mountains still, trying to walk to a better location that they can get aid at, or walk down the sides of those mountains, down country roads, through areas that have been washed out. You need a good pair of shoes for that. Okay, next two things, of course, the big ones, food and water. You need to have extra food and water on hand. My friends who are in Georgia who are living in their camper, they have extra food, which is good because none of the area stores have any food or any power. I don't care how you store it, whether it's canned or freeze-dried or vacuum sealed, it doesn't matter. Just have some on hand, at least 2 weeks. But in the case of my friends, it's going on 3 weeks, so maybe think about a month of food. You're going to have to spend some time calculating how much food you will need for the size of family that you have. But it is a good task to do and to spend time on because it's very important. Now, that drinking water, you're going to need to have a backup source of water. I don't care if it's bottled water. I'm not big on plastic. Most bottled water comes in plastic or aluminum. But if you can find it bottled in glass, that's even better. Just have a backup source and a way to filter it because water is not restored to any of those areas either. So people are having to look for water, and unfortunately that water is probably going to be contaminated, so you have to filter it. I don't care how you filter it. Maybe you've got a Life Straw, maybe you've got a Katydin, maybe you've got a Berkey Travel, whatever it is. Just get something to filter it. I personally have Life Straws in the backpack in my vehicle that has medical supplies in it that I take everywhere with me all the time to be able to help people out. Here's another big one, this thing. This may or may not work. There hasn't been cell service in certain parts after Hurricane Helene for weeks. So I shouldn't rely on this for anything. Making phone calls on this does use the least amount of power, which is good. But if you're going to look at anything on the internet, forget it. It drains the battery so fast. That's why I recommend actually having paper maps. Now you might think I'm old-fashioned about that, but listen to me. If you're stuck up in the mountains of North Carolina, I'm going to keep using that as an example, and roads are washed out and you always use your GPS on your phone to go anywhere, people have lost knowledge, right? If you don't memorize the area that you live in, or you're new to the area, or you're visiting the area, how are you going to get out of there? How are you going to know where to go? Pick up a paper map. They still make them and they're incredibly valuable. Now, if you're trying to get out of an area in a vehicle, make sure you've got gas. There were a bunch of people stuck on the highways in Florida during Hurricane Milton just last week because the gas stations ran out of gas, everybody sat on the highway, everybody evacuated too late, there was a parking lot on I-75 and nobody could go anywhere, the cars ran out of gas. That same thing happened here outside of Houston for people trying to escape Houston, I think during Harvey, or was it the hurricane before that? I think it was a hurricane before that. It was a parking lot on I-10 going from Houston to San Antonio. People ran out of gas. They couldn't move their vehicles. It was a complete nightmare. A friend of mine spent 22 hours and he only got an hour outside of Houston. His family spent their time in their vehicle for 2 days. So think about having extra cans of gas around your home. You can throw in your vehicle really quick if you need that little bit extra to get just a little bit farther away from the situation. Okay, here's one of the last points I want to make. Have some cash on hand. If there's no power, your credit card's not going to work anywhere. Even if the gas station has gas, but they have no power, you're not getting gas because one, you probably can't pay for it, and two, the pumps are out to pump the gas up into your vehicle, out of the tanks. Maybe if a gas station has a generator, that's a good thing, but they're not going to have the internet. They're going to not have power to process your card. They're going to want cash. Cash is king in emergency situations, so you better have some extra on hand at home. And like I mentioned before with the food, even if you get to the grocery store and they do have something left, but they don't have power and they let you in, they're probably only going to take cash. Okay, for my Christian friends, you know what I'm going to say. You cannot rely on anything but God. In any situation, any natural disaster, God is going to be the only one who's going to help you through it. He's going to give you strength. He's going to give you help in anything that you need, especially if it's in a bad situation like that and you are asking for His help. Friends, you know that nothing we do can save ourselves. It is all Christ. So rely on Him and call on Him for every need that you have. And if those needs right now for you are financial needs so that you can prepare the way that I've talked about today, then please pray for that. And God will help you at the perfect time like He's helped us. Like when I lost my job in Washington, D.C., and I was bringing my wife over from the Philippines, and I couldn't find a job after the 2008 crash, and I was paying my mortgage and buying groceries, and that was it, basically. And we had about $1,000 left in our bank account, enough for one more mortgage payment. We got a job, both of us, within 2 weeks of one another. So can things like this solar power system help out in situations? Absolutely, but not in every situation, so plan accordingly. If you are interested in DIYing your own solar system like we did, click on this series of videos. And as always, I will list below the video all the things that we use here on our homestead, like the knife, the solar, the flashlight, etc. So if you want to check any of those out, head below the video. Have a beautiful, blessed day. We'll see you next time.